Community business is a term I started using just a few years ago to talk about a really magical, specific type of business that is slowly kind of emerging and coming together. In this video, I'm going to talk about where community businesses came from, the three different sources and inspirations for community businesses. And a little later in the video, I'll tell you my official definition for community businesses. For now, I'll tell you that it is any type of membership community, cohort based course, or other course structures that involve community, group coaching program, any type of business where the actual product that you're selling, what you're actually building the business around, is connecting people to each other. So, community is not just a nice to have in community businesses, it's actually core to both the business model as well as how you do sales and marketing and how you think about running the entire business. So, I want to first start talking about these three kind of inspirations and where community businesses actually came from, because it's actually a structure that has existed for a really long time. The first kind of inspiration and source for community businesses are actually in real life community businesses and the structures of gathering people around learning something or around growing together. It's something that has existed for a really long time. So even in ancient Greece, there were clubs of people that would get together for political reasons and also for religious reasons. So this is a structure that has existed for thousands of years. Another example of real life community businesses that I really like is the women's club movement in the US that happened in like the mid 1800s. And these were at first a group of just white women who would gather around knitting or making some type of art together. But then these small clubs in cities all over the country, they became really powerful ways where women were organizing themselves and they became part of big political movement. So the women's suffrage movement, child labor laws, the emergence of kindergarten as a way of early childhood education, all of these things came about from the women's club movements. And these were basically memberships where people would be a member of a certain club. These clubs also very quickly became a really key way for Black women to get together and organize politically. So I mentioned this because these are structures that, even though like maybe we just started calling them community businesses, they're structures that have existed for a long time. So even things like college courses or real life fitness classes like CrossFit or chambers of commerce, which is like a local way for cities to gather their entrepreneurs. These are all community business structures that have existed for a really long time, and they're a really natural way of bringing people together. The downside to all of these real life community structures is that without like an online component, these structures are really limited to how they can gather members within a physical location, within a certain city or place. The second source of inspiration for community businesses are online communities. Traditionally, these were free online communities, and they've been around now for a while, since the very early stages of the internet, where there were a lot of forums and people were starting to connect with strangers online using platforms like Reddit or Tumblr. Those are places where people were coming together to find people who were interested in the same things that they were interested in, to talk about movies, to show pictures of their dogs, to really nerd out with people who were interested in the thing that they were interested in. After those original platforms, these kind of free online groups have continued to exist on platforms like Facebook groups, where they're still going. The issue with the free online communities is that very often they'll either grow really fast or grow really big. and make it hard to manage for a community leader. The other issue is that often the moderators or the community leaders in these communities, they're not well compensated or not compensated at all because these are often free communities. So it becomes hard to make these groups sustainable long term. It's very common for community leaders to burn out because they're not being well compensated for doing the work. And the platforms are very, very volatile. So things are constantly changing around. So it's rare that a group lasts a long time and is sustainable long term. And then the third piece of the foundation that community businesses are kind of standing on top of is the online education industry. So the online education industry started once it became cheap enough to leverage the internet to run some kind of online business. So it was around the time when platforms like Teachable were making it accessible for anyone to teach online, when payment processors were available for most people to sell things online. It was also around the time where Facebook ads and Google ads became a really easy way to grow an audience online. And it was also like around the growth of social media. You could grow demand for the course that you were building, for whatever you were selling online, by being yourself online on these social media platforms. So in the last couple of decades, it's become a lot more accessible to be able to build an online education business. Like the blueprint has kind of been set by these platforms and also by these big creators that have built big followings and big businesses around online education. The downside is the online education business has always been a little bit scammy. From the beginning, like in its DNA, there are some origins where a lot of these big creators are using scammy marketing tactics like scarcity or fear in their marketing. It's always been about selling this lifestyle and then using their own lifestyle to be able to charge outrageous prices for what they're selling. So it's always been a little bit scammy and it's always lacked a little bit of accountability because they're not regulated in any way. And a lot of times it's not something that those who aren't satisfied with what they got have any recourse or a place to go to complain about a bad experience that happened within any of these online courses or education businesses. So that's like the online education business. We've learned a lot about building an online business from the online education business, but there are also downsides and things that we're hoping to change for this next generation of online businesses. So I mentioned these kind of three foundational legs that community businesses stand on. So there are real life community businesses that have existed for thousands of years. There are the OG free online communities, and there's also the online education businesses. From all three of those, we've kind of taken the pieces that work. And I believe that within community businesses, we're able to also change the pieces that don't work as well and make it so that this is a cohesive business that can work long term. So these are businesses that prioritize connection in their business model, in the way that they sell and market what they're selling, and also in how they treat their members. So it's not just about kind of building another toxic structure on top of all of these other toxic things. Community businesses kind of address connection in the business from all of these different aspects of building the business. So what exactly is a community business? The definition that I use for a community is a group of people who come together to nurture their own and one another's growth. I derived this definition from the definition that Bell Hooks uses for love. It's beautiful to me that love would be such a core part of any community. And I think the other part that is really important to communities is growth. I believe that anyone who is joining a community for being a part of a community business in some way, they are doing it not just to stay the same, but they want tomorrow to be different from today. They want to nurture their own growth, but also help others grow and also kind of use the gathering as a way to like grow the world and like live in a different world than we live in right now. So I think that's a really important part of community. And deriving from that definition of community, a community business is an organization that makes money from facilitating the connections that help people grow. So that's my official definition of what a community business is. So why build a community business now? Even before 2020, we were already living in cultures that were pretty isolated. Now that we've been through lockdowns and social distancing and all of these other ways that we've had to learn how to live kind of on our own in our own homes, we are even more awkward when it comes to connecting with people. Connection is such a core part of being a human. And yet we're having, in some ways, to relearn what that means to show up in the world and connect with people. So it makes sense that these types of businesses would emerge at a time when so many of us are kind of scared of connecting, and so many of us are feeling this need, but at the same time, kind of fear of connecting and meeting new people and making new friends, where loneliness is at the highest rate that it's ever been, that as far as we know. So it's a time when building a structure that can work really long term and that incentivizes the people who are building those structures and also is useful to society to keep us connected and to help us grow, help us learn. It's just a perfect time for community businesses to emerge as a type of online business. So community businesses are kind of a magical little solution, at least I think. The incentives of a community business are very well aligned, unlike some of the other examples that we talked about earlier on. As I mentioned, they're in a really good place to address these big societal issues that we might be facing, like loneliness. Because most of them are real for profit businesses, they can compensate their leaders and their moderators well. So there's less burnout, there is less feeling resentment and regret over starting a community. They are also in a place to take the ways that we as humans have been coming together for centuries and bring it online in order to enhance what it means to come together in person for people. So we're not replacing anything. We're not really inventing anything new. We're just taking what's already been working and making it work for more people and more community leaders also. And on top of all that, they can leverage all the marketing learnings from the online businesses from the last 10, 20, 30 years and use those marketing learnings in a more ethical way, in a way that really connects people to each other and helps them grow even throughout the sales process. And I think the best part of building a community business is that they're a really fulfilling type of business to grow. They're not an easy type of business to grow, but they really invite you to show up as yourself and to really learn the ways that you connect the best in order to bring that to the other people who you're gathering. So they're a really magical way to not only to bring growth to other people, but to also grow yourself as a leader and as a human. And I love that about community businesses. Anyway, I'm very biased because I love these businesses. I have one myself, and my life's work, at least for now, is to help more of these community businesses exist. So in this brand new baby YouTube channel, that's what I'm going to be talking about. The tools and tactics you can use if you want to run a community business, the factors that go into connecting people, and anything else that you'd like me to cover about community businesses, where they came from, where they're going, and how to run one that feels good to you and is really a microcosm of the world that you want to live in. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you for watching this. It's my very first one, so go easy on me in the comments, and I'll see you next time.